you ever wondered, can you communicate directly with spirit guides, teachers, or non-physical consciousness, or even our higher selves? What would they tell us? My name is Kevin Moore, and since 2015, I started to practice a form of communication which is termed channeling. I have been interviewing experts on my talk show to find out, does life continue after we die, and can we communicate with those that have crossed over? With each expert I spoke to, they all had different ideas. Is there knowledge from the past which could be shared with the present moment? So I thought, why not just speak to the non-physical world directly through channelers around the world? And that's what I set out to do. They Call Us Channelers will take the viewers on a journey into the phenomena known as channeling. And my main goal with this docuseries is to bring a new understanding and awareness to channeling by looking within ourselves and asking, is it truly possible that we can all use this innate ability?
When I was looking at your work, actually, when I was watching your past life regression.
Oh dear. Oh yes.
I saw the parallel. I saw the parallel, and in what you're saying about where we're headed, where humanity is headed. That's what we're talking about. That's who Joseph is. So
yeah, well, you can see it, can't you, right now? I mean, God, if this isn't the beginning of it or part of it, I don't know what is. Do you know what I mean?
Oh my God!
Yeah, and we're going to get into fear and everything else, and we do this interview, and it's on the precipice of potential war, and this is part of the great change. And when I was channeling, and this is not about me, I'm just going to just put this here just quickly. When I was channeling many years ago, and I stopped. That's what got us into the channeling docu-series, to be honest with you, right? It used to tell me again and again and again, there is a massive change coming, there is a massive change coming, there is a massive change coming. You've not seen nothing yet. And it wasn't fearful. It wasn't a fearful change. It was something, it was going to be difficult, but it was so much better on the other side of that change.
Yeah. Well, we are here to teach, to pave the way. Actually, if you've been to the website, they're shining the light on this pathway, and so this time right now is so important that we learn how to choose, because we are still in charge of the creation of our own reality, and we choose that path, we choose the experience based on the perspective we're using, And so we've got now the opportunity to move out of the third dimensional perspective of fear. We call it out of alignment, into the perspective of the new earth and the new human aspect, which is purely love. So that's why we're doing this.
Right, and we're going to dive into all of that as well. I do want to do the honors and just sort of give a bit of background on yourself. Now, you're currently in Atlanta.
Yes.
Been there many years. But before your move to Atlanta, obviously, you went through a great shift in your life, like a lot of us do as well.
Yeah.
Take us that difficult place where, you was almost, and you were at some points, lying on the floor. Your marriage was over. Friends of that marriage were gone. Business was over. You was in a dark place, I guess.
Yeah, really dark, very dark. It was a really difficult time. It was like, in the matter of probably a couple weeks, actually, it was my third marriage that was over. And only now can I look back and see why I had those experiences. They make sense to me now. But anyway, it was almost a matter of just a few weeks. And I found myself, laying in the fetal position on the floor and screaming, "You forgot about me." I think I just laid there for 2 weeks crying. I just cried. And it just felt like every wall that I thought was my reality had just imploded. I had no direction. I had no communication really with anybody. And just the doors just kept closing and closing. And I had no idea what was happening. It was a long time ago. So, but there was a guy, when I lost my job. Yes, the business crashed. I got another job. That was fine. Everything was fine. I was assuming that everything was fine as the doors were closing. And I just got another job and I got another job but they were horrible. It was obvious I wasn't supposed to be there. Anyway, the day I lost my last job, I was in Birmingham, Alabama, and my car was in the shop. And so they sent a runner to come and pick me up. I was working for an ad agency, and I got a call. His name was Charlie. I'll never forget him. An older man, used to run errands for the agency all the time. Nobody really paid attention to him. Nobody talked to him but me. Anyway, he came to pick me up that day. On the way into the office, I got the call that said, "We lost an account. You don't even have to come in. We'll send you your stuff." That was like the last straw. It was a blow. I can feel the punch in the throat, at that point. I had only been there about 6 months or so. And I just started crying, and Charlie pulled over and he looked at me and he said, sorry, wow, it was so long ago and it still affects me. He said, "God has a plan for your life. Do you have a Bible?" And I had never read the Bible, but I knew I had one. I'd been carrying it around with me for years, and it was a small King James version on really thin onion skin paper, really small. And I said, "Yes." And he said, "You go back upstairs." I lived in a high rise down there. He said, "You go back upstairs and you get that Bible out and start reading it." And that's exactly what I did. I walked in my apartment and I went right to it. And I laid down on my couch. It was about 10 o'clock in the morning at that point, and I started reading. I fell asleep reading this thing. I woke up the next morning and everything was different. I felt no more pain. I felt no disappointment. And it was weird. I sat up on my couch and everything was just different. I don't know. I don't know. Well, now I know what happened. I didn't know then, but I know now.
So what was all that about then? Were you jumping timelines or something?
I don't know. There was a sense of peace as soon as I started reading, and it was the New Testament. As soon as I started reading that, I felt this sense of peace, and I was actually understanding it, even though I'd never read it. King James Version, not easy, but I was understanding it, and somehow it was getting into my vibration. So I don't know, but I went outside that day. I said, "Well, I'm going to go down to the Y." The minute I stepped outside onto the sidewalk, you hear people say this all the time. And until you experience it, you can't tell the intensity. The sky was bluer. The trees were in full bloom and the colors were just bursting. And there was a peace. There was a peace around me. It was really strange. And everything changed that day. And I started on a different path. That's what I see now. And things just went from there. And I had total trust. I had no money, which is a whole nother story because of the business and everything. My husband took for a lot of money. So I was stuck with a lot of bills from that I had been paying. And so I had a lot of pressure on me at the time, and I had no money and I'd lost this job. So I just said, "Okay, I'm surrendering. I'm just giving it all up." And I did. And every single thing that I needed was there when I needed it. I mean, I could tell stories that, people wouldn't even believe, but that's what it was. And the first time I heard the audible voice, it said to me, and it wasn't long after that, it said to me, "You will always have what you need." And I've always had what I needed and more, So that was a step in trust.
And do you think that part of that is because you're in alignment with what you love doing? It's your purpose.
At that time, I wasn't. Well, I think they were putting me in alignment, because at that point I had no idea. I really had no idea. So yes, that started me on a new pathway. And then that is when I say they, because it's ultimately Joseph, but they put me on this path of Christianity. And I read the Bible 3 or 4 times from almost day to day, 3-year period. And I dove in, head first, and I was reading it. I was testing everything it said, and everything was happening. And so I said, now I'm a Christian. I was raised a Catholic, never knew anything about the Bible, So now all of a sudden I'm a Christian. And I started going to Church of God. I started studying with these teachers. And ultimately, they moved me away from that. Now I understand why. I'm understanding years later, as I continue on this journey, why I had to do that. These are the events that we're talking about, that Joseph tells us about, the events that happen on our human aspect pathway as we claw our way out of the third dimension.
Right, absolutely. Yeah. So do you feel that the move away from the religious book was basically you'd come to the limitations of what the book was offering? Because I guess, any religious text, or most religious texts, if you go beyond what they're teaching, that's not allowed to go beyond the veil of that. It's...
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. I went to a couple churches in the beginning, never felt comfortable there, because I was interpreting the Bible my own way. And it made sense to me. So I ultimately left the church scene and found TV preachers who were teaching the Bible. So I thought, and I stuck with them. I would sit down every Sunday morning for 3 or 4 hours with my coffee and my Bible. And that happened for many months. And then one day I was watching the same guy who I still admire them all. They were a stepping stone on my path, no question about that. And I had been watching him, loved his translation. And one day he said something that he had said many times over. And I don't even know it was me, but I turned off the TV. I picked up the Bible. I stood up and I held it up and I said, I don't believe you are contained here anymore. So now you're going to have to teach me. And they did. And that's when I started on a new path.
Right. So let's just go to 2006 then, when you started hearing audible voices. What was the process there?
This was at the tail end of my diving into the Bible Christianity. And I was at work one day and I was feeling this. Now, at this time, I believed in hell. I believed in a devil. I believed what the Bible was teaching me, right? And so I was sitting at work. It was late in the afternoon, and I felt this dread just come over me. I have no idea where it came from. I don't know, but it was so bad that I went home. And I laid down on my bed in the fetal position and I was trembling. I felt like I was being attacked by this devil, I had heard stories about it, never happened to me. And I was laying there shaking. And that's when I heard the first of this pathway. And he said, there is no devil and there is no hell. And as I'm hearing that, and it was audible, and I knew it was Jesus. I know it was him. While he was saying it in that short few seconds, what seemed like a few seconds, it was a moment, really. The peace came over me. The dread was gone. And from that moment on, I never believed any of that anymore. And I moved away from it again, different path again. And there were several audibles that came through. There were within a span of a couple months, there were probably 5 that were awesome. And then when I started getting into the automatic writing, it changed from the audible voice to coming through my fingers when I started typing and hearing, vibrationally.
Which was around 2009.
Yes. Yes. When I sat down to write that magazine article and it said, "Dear Cindy," and I went, "What the hell is this?" And I just kept going, pages and pages. I read it now and it's kind of funny. But it was almost like when I got to the end of it, it was almost like a review of the life I had lived, up to that point. It was very interesting. I still have every conversation I've ever had with them. Yeah. So then they started taking me to different teachers and discovering and unfolding what my purpose was. Yeah, it's cool.
What were you channeling at the time then when it started to go from the sort of creative writing, I guess you would call it, to sort of, verbally coming out of you? What was the process there? And what were they saying that there was a name attached to that process?
No. The first teacher I was led to, I'll never forget him. He was awesome. He was a great channel. And he taught me, actually, he was the first one that suggested the automatic writing. And he gave me the process that he learned, which was he gave me these 6 pictures of ascended masters. And he said, "I want you to stare at these pictures." A lot of people have this process where you kind of let it go out of focus. And the pictures, they started moving for me, And so when I started doing that, they would just come through and they would just talk to me. It was just a conversation. A lot of the times without then I moved into the time without the pictures. And when I was doing that, most of my time was spent, "Who are you? Is this real? Is this me? Is it you? Is it you?" And in the beginning, the response was always the same. And it doesn't matter who we are the same. We are the same. We are you. We are you. Of course, I didn't understand any of that at the time.
Right.
So I argued most of the time.
Yeah. I get that process. And I think that's a healthy process. And I think obviously, let's just say the process is different for all of us. Just that this is your process. This is your story. It doesn't have to be someone else's story, but I'm sure those who do go through the process of trusting this will resonate with certain aspects of your, even just the argument back.
Yeah.
Right? So, when you had your session with Paul Selig in New York, which he's now based in Hawaii. Now, obviously, Paul's been on the show a number of times, and he came on to the same channeling docuseries as you're a part of right now, which you're honored to have you on. What was that process? Where were you up to at the time? What were you bringing through? And what happened with Paul?
It was actually a Zoom session that I had set up. So I was here. He was in New York at the time. He was still in New York. And I was so curious. I had followed him for a long time, love his work. I really resonated with the books. And I recommend them to a lot of people because I feel the truth in his transmission, So I was thrilled to talk to him. And I had been talking to Abraham at the time for about a year. That's, they said they were Abraham, right? So I had no qualms. I was confident in this. And I wanted to get someone else who I knew would understand a channel of that magnitude, because as well as I do, when we are just beginning to channel, everybody that's already channeling is so much better than we are. And we look at, we find out later that it's all unique, right? So when I sat there, he did a quick reading. I don't even really remember it. I have it all recorded, of course. It was delightful meeting him. And then he said, "What do you do?" And everything he had told me related to the channeling. So I started telling him that, I've been channeling for a couple of years and several years at that time. And I have been introduced to Abraham. And I told him a little bit about the story. And as soon as I said that, he went like this. And I went like this. I was all of a sudden, I'm confused because I figure he knows what he's talking about, right? So I said, "What's with the face?" And he said, "Well, I don't believe that's how it works. I think Abraham belongs to Esther. I don't think that they switch people." And of course, I didn't know enough about any other channel other than Abraham at that point. So I didn't even consider that. And so he said, but I don't want to discourage you. Let's go to the guides. And the guides, the only thing they said, they're so delightful. What they said was, there is a group who's trying to teach through her. She needs to ask what their name is. So, of course, at that time, my heart sunk. And I said, oh my God, I've been duped. What is all this? And he said, don't get discouraged. Ask who it is. So I went home that night. I was at a friend's house when I did that. I went home that night and I pulled out my laptop and I said, what gives here? Are you guys tricking me? What are you doing? And of course, they don't do that, right? We do that, but they don't do that. And they said, we are not tricking you. We are Abraham, but we will reveal our name. That's all they said. And so I was really confused, of course, because I didn't get the connection yet, right? But of course, they had led me to Abraham for a long time. Then I was sitting outside a few days later, and I see this vision. It was so clear. I love it. I have it on my website. It was so powerful, of a prop plane that like you see over the beach with the banner attached, right? And the first banner said Seth, and the second banner said Abraham, and the third banner was blank. And they said, that's us. We're next. And then I understood. It was like everything came together in this big ball, and it hit me. I went, okay, now I get it. And everything that they had been teaching me through the Abraham name was directly related to the spreading of this evolved message about our own evolution, And of course, I got a lot of shit from some people for saying, oh, she's trying to write. No, it's not anything about that. It's only about teaching the evolution of the human aspect and understanding how we're all connected, and how everything evolves. And of course, Seth's message evolved into an Abraham evolved, right? And then Abraham just blew up. I mean, the consciousness just went crazy, an expansion. And so now there's a lot of people teaching from this expanded consciousness. We're only one of them,
How did you get past that stage where, yes, Paul's give you that reading, and okay, so, well, actually, before I ask you that, let me just ask you this. I'll cut that out. So you go see Paul, and then you're communicating with your group. I'll just call them that for now. And what is then the connection between Abraham and what you channel now, which is the group that's called Joseph?
Joseph, right. They are the evolved vibrational consciousness. So, as we evolve, in fact, I just finished editing the podcast for this. They gave me this chart that shows the evolution of the human aspect and how we are choosing our way out of the denseness by evolving into more of who we really are. So as the human collective, which has to do with something else we need to put in this, as the human collective expands their own consciousness individually, collectively, we are readying ourselves collectively and individually for more opportunities to understand more of who we are. So Seth comes in and says, you create your own reality, right? Blows the doors off a bunch of people, right? And then so Jane teaches that for years. And then Esther steps in. If you remember Esther's story, she was led to Seth, and she wanted to meet Jane when she found out who Abraham was.
Yes, and it was actually a group called the Theo group that pushed her on a journey as well. Yeah.
Yes. So you can see how the consciousness is kind of, I'm going to say, splitting. It's expanding, and it's so big that the messages that have been brought to the human collective over the years have got to evolve, because we are evolving and we want to know more, So as the consciousness expands and Esther continues to teach her shtick, about vibration and about alignment, then Joseph comes in and says, okay, now we are ready to build this bridge to the new earth. And that requires the accommodation of a new perspective, and the perspective with which the human aspect, the physical aspect of the non-physical soul, inner being, whatever you want to call it, must shift to the new perspective in order to choose our way out of the contrast, choose our way out of the fear.
I find your work fascinating, and I find it of a really high quality, actually, what you're doing. And there's I've got the feeling that this would be one of a few shows that we'll do, because I want this to be a sort of, the basis of your story. I wouldn't, we can move on from there as well in the future. So I think you would say that there was an aspect maybe of the Abraham group that you were channeling, but it was only ever to just move you on to where you are, because obviously on a personal level you're on your own evolution as well, right? So yes, Paul may have given you that reading, but with any reading we get from anyone, I think we have to. It's based on where we're at right now at this very moment, on the course that we're going on right now. This is the results of it, I suppose. Even though Paul's readings are, there is a difference between the channeled readings and obviously the psychic modality in some respects.
Right.
But you trusted it was almost like it was a bit of a trust. Yeah, you trusted what your guides were telling you. You went back and you still trusted them that you are on the right course. And maybe you needed that little nudge from Paul, and I'm sure you've given that nudge to other people on their journey now, so that how the tables are reversed. So when did it come clear to you that Joseph was the group that you were working with? And of course, Joseph is just a human name for us to be comfortable, with communication, I suppose, with this group. And again, I know there's a lot I'm saying here, and you're always channeling Joseph. Joseph is always with you. You're a conscious channel now.
Yes. I'll tell you that between the time I saw Paul and then I went home and they said, we'll reveal our name. I had contacted an astrologer friend of mine who was also a channel, but her focus is on astrology and the planets. And I said, I said to her, I don't get this. I was disturbed by it, but I did trust them. I did. I could feel the truth in what they were telling me. So she said to me, they can't tell you their name yet, but they will. That's all she said. So because they weren't telling her either, So I said, okay. So I trusted her too, and I just waited. And then I got the plane. A week or so later, I don't even remember, it was shortly thereafter, I was chatting with them and they said, we want you to take off 30 days and go and write the first book. And I had no problem with that, So I did that. I went down to the beach and I sat there, and that was a very interesting 30 days, actually. And it was the end of the first book of the welcome letter, their introductory letter to us, where they said, we are Joseph. And I spelled it like we normally spell Joseph. And it wasn't till I met with my mentor, the only other person that channels Joseph, and they gave her to me for when I get, a bit whacked. And I said, I got to have something. I haven't seen her in a while, but, and I went to her the day I got back, and they had set that meeting up. They're very cool. I mean, there's so much interaction with them on a daily basis. They are blended. We are blended, and they told me then, they said, the first thing we want to tell you is there will be several more books, and the correct way to spell our name is Joseph. And I think they did that so not to confuse them with the Mary and Joseph, because I know Abraham has gotten that question many times. A lot of people liken Abraham to the Abraham from the Bible, and that's not the case, So I think that's why they did that. They just said, because it is only something for us to call them. They say, we don't need a name. We know who we are, and soon you will know more of who you are.
And they sure did that with the books that you're that you've put out there, 4 books so far. So. Yeah. And this is a group then of 7, would you say? 7 sort of?
Or 7.
Yes. Well, I was going to say 7 souls there, but or 7 consciousness. How would you term it? How do they term it for themselves? 7?
They just say we're a group of conscious teachers. We're conscious teachers. We're a group of teachers, and they are teaching so many things. It's so big, Kevin, that, I record a lot of podcasts, most of which I don't post because I get off on these tangents because it is such a huge subject. We're changing everything.
Yeah, well, let's just mention your website and podcast. Let's just mention that now because it's coming up on the screen. And for the podcast version, your website is?
Well, we're at theteachingsofjoseph.com, and there is a YouTube podcast link that will take you to our YouTube channel. And that gives me the freedom to upload them without my developer and waiting for him. But I upload them myself onto YouTube as I get them out there.
In the hands of the developer and website guy. I know, or website girl. I know that feeling a lot. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Yes. So we're going to link everything in the description of this YouTube video. So anything that we mention, everything, including all the books, are linked below in the description below, websites and a lot Facebook pages, and podcast links for Cindy. So I guess, was there a lot of trusting this connection? Because I know you've mentioned this on previous shows, and I know that it's something that's come my way a lot of times. What did someone once say to us? They said, it's like going, channeling's a bit like going into an alleyway, opening the door and letting anything through, unless you've got, some sort of guard up. How would you know their intention? But you've never drawn anything to you that wasn't of just pure love, have you?
No. In fact, they told me in the beginning, it never occurred to me, but a lot of channels, the ones I've been with, even my mentor, when I was still seeing her, who's a fantastic channel, always put a protection around her, around us. Paul does. Paul recommended that I do that. He sent me to somebody else who said, you've got to protect. And I said to Joseph, how come you never told me this? And they said, because you don't need to do that. We are your protection. And that is the difference between being in alignment, I guess, or, when Jesus said the devil is under my feet, that means the lower vibrations, if they're not in your awareness, they cannot affect you. So if I say, that's why I don't mess with the dark entities. I know they're out there somewhere. I have some friends who are spiritual friends that do deal with that stuff. I don't consider that. I don't include that in my awareness, let's say. It's not part of my reality. And since we get to choose our reality, I choose not to include that. I've got other work to do.
Yes. You absolutely do very important work. I mean, I've messed around with, with an ongoing documentary that I'm docu-series, shall I say, that I'm doing right now. It includes that energy. I know it's there, and I talk to it. I interact with it, but I know that I've always felt protected enough that it's not. I've never felt taken over or, too influenced by anything like that. Right. And there is light in the dark. I think a lot of people ignore that as well. There is. Yes. But like you say, you're in charge of all this. And, but, people do say, the voice told me, it told me to do this. But I guess you've got to be, well, there's certain things that you're here to learn, would you say? There's certain things that we're all here to go through with choices. And those that choose to do those things may use the excuse of the voice, or the voice may have actually been there. Do you think that negative attachment maybe comes from something they brought into this lifetime that they never healed in the past, or do you think it's they've set themselves on a journey which has attracted that to them because of where they're at mentally?
I understand it this way, and I can't believe this is why this was put off till today, because of the podcast I did this morning about this chart.
Oh, you can't make that up, can you? Sorry.
The evolution of the human aspect begins, the physical aspect began thousands, millions, who knows how long ago. There's been so many aspects of us that we're only becoming aware of now. So the original current human aspect, who was who chose to come into, I'll say, the darkness, who had little awareness of who it was. And the purpose of that was to expand through the third dimension to discover more of who it was, right? So as we are leaving, coming back, leaving, experiencing physical lifetime after physical lifetime after physical lifetime, we carry our physical vibration with us. When we get out of here, when we croak, as Esther says, the physical vibration remains on the vibrational timeline where it is in agreement, where it spent its last lifetime, let's say. This is a big subject too. So, but we expand our soul aspect because while we're here, we're collecting more love, right? I picture it as going around with a flower basket. And every time I think of love, every time I experience love, I'm throwing flowers in that basket. So they say you can't take anything with you, but you take that with you. You take the love with you. So when we transition and we move back to our wholeness of the soul, we gather up all that love and we take it with us. So the next time we come back, we are expanded on our soul's aspect, right? So we pick up where we left off on the physical, but we are expanded because of our soul's expansion. So the physical aspect who has experienced the third dimension, the out of alignment manifestations that we say, the fear, carries with it. And until we, as the current human aspect, can expand that aspect beyond that vibrational timeline to get it into alignment with who we are, it will continue to manifest. A lot of people call that healing. You know, healers are popping up all over the place. There are so many modalities of healing right now. And this is the reason. And there's so many ways to do it. You know, we do it vibrationally. We heal that aspect by moving it forward, by changing the outcome of that situation, which they did with me in book number 2. They took me there for that purpose in a meditation. They took me back to a previous life or a different timeline, we'll say, to heal that aspect. And when that happened, that changed my trajectory too. And not only does it heal, expand that aspect for me, it also expands the aspect of who was my husband in that lifetime and my father in this lifetime. So now the connection between us traveling together, teaching each other as we move as aspects through these dimensions, right? We teach each other, we help each other. And so that's how we, teach that healing that you're talking about. And the manifestations, yes, will continue until the vibration shifts.
And that person who's gone through that dark, I want to say the dark night of the soul, but it's worse than that, isn't it? You know, if you're going to commit an atrocity to someone else, it touches so many lives on this level, doesn't it?
So many lives. Yeah.
And that, so basically, what you're saying is that person that's done that, the admittance of being sorry and the admittance of taking responsibility for their action, that must be part of the healing as well on this level. But do you think that's also rippling out when they do that to other aspects of themselves on different timelines, on different lifetimes?
Well, yeah, absolutely. But, from our perspective, it's a different kind of expansion because when you're in alignment, there's no healing necessary because nothing is ever wrong in alignment. There's no wrong or right. There's only vibrational agreement and manifestation. So when the vibration shifts to an in alignment vibration, you understand why you did those. We do those things out of lack of awareness. As the human aspect, we don't teach a dark night of any soul because in our perspective, the soul is the pure love. It's the aspect of God that is just the pureness of the love. It's the human aspect, the physical aspect, who is choosing those things. And most of the time we choose them because of pain. We choose them because of a fearful vibration. We choose them for lack of knowing who we really are. We're making choices by default, not consciously.
Do you think then, if that is the case, that there are any sort of agreements, but before we incarnate, and maybe this question doesn't even matter, but out of just
yes, there are.
There are, but if there are, then we don't have to carry out with doing that deed to someone, but we choose to, because we can, with free will, go from that lack of love and still go down that path, even though we've agreed to that. I'd like to experience that. I don't know, and it sounds so crazy me saying that, but if there are agreements, then I guess you are wanting that experience. So it's so multifaceted, isn't it? The whole.
It's huge. It's huge. Now, remember, on that same subject, when those agreements are made between aspects, they are made from the position of alignment. They're made from the perspective of love. I don't know if you ever read the Conversations with God, Neil's book, Conversations with God. Okay. So if you remember his story that God told him about the two little souls, remember that story? I bring this up a lot. When God was standing there and a little soul was standing there hanging out with him. And the little soul said to God, I really want to go back to, I want to go back to earth and experience more love, because that's the mindset there, right? But I've experienced so much. What could I possibly expand to? Or, these are my words, not his. His story is fantastic. And God said to him, what would you like to experience? He said, I don't know. You have to tell me. And he said, well, you could experience pain. And the little soul said, what is pain? And so God told him. And he said, why would anybody choose to experience that? And God said, because from the human perspective, that will cause you to expand in love. Again, my translation of this. Okay. The story is great, found in the first book, I think. Anyway, so he said, why would anybody choose to do that to somebody else? At that point, another little soul comes into the picture and he says, I'll do it for you. And he said, why would you do that? He said, because I love you and I want you to experience more love. And he said, well, how could I ever repay you to do something, for doing something like that? And the other little soul said to him, all I ask is that you remember who I am. And that story is so prevalent right now, because you know what that means. I mean, these are people we travel with, and these are agreements to manifest the events that are on our eternal journey, our eternal pathway. We can't evolve if we don't experience more to get us to the next event so we can experience more.
Yeah. Yeah. And what is the healing process then for someone that's gone through, been either the victim or is the perpetrator of such events? What is the healing, the common healing for both of them? Is it, well, what would you say? Yeah. What would you say is the healing point?
It's expansion. I will tell you that it's expansion out of that timeline where that vibration, painful vibration, the out of alignment vibration, there's like no words. New lexicon is coming. When you expand out of that vibration, it's a different understanding. It's a different perspective. When I went through that process, this process that we're talking about, Archangel Michael actually took me there to this scene. And what we did was we changed the ending of that experience, because there's still a vibration. The vibrational timelines are still there. They're still active. They're vibrating. The aspect of me was still there, left in that position vibrationally, lying dormant, right? Until we go back and wake her up. And so I got to experience as an observer what put me in that position and what I've been carrying with me all these lifetimes. And then we added an ending, and the ending changed my transition vibrationally, changed the vibration of that aspect.
And that's something that you do with clients, isn't it? That's one process, tell me if I'm wrong, that you do with other clients.
I don't do it. I tell them about it, and then I recommend a past life regressionist to do it for them. Yeah, we don't do it. We introduce the concept And that's why they let me do it, or they took me through the process, because this process of healing, the human thing of healing, we call it expansion. The human thought process about that, this is completely different. We don't recommend somebody spend 25 years in therapy going back to figure out why, my father was yelling at me. That doesn't fit in to our bridge building, because we're all about shifting perspective.
Of course, but that is a shift in perspective to even get someone to want to go down that path of healing in that perspective. So it's still a you're Joseph and yourself are part of that shift, and that whole idea of going into a past perspective of our lifetime and changing the outcome, even though you speak to anyone on this timeline, that outcome still happened, but in some other unknown perspective, in realities that as we don't understand it, as we don't understand time or other parallel universes perhaps, and I'm sure there are multiple, that healing resonates into this lifetime, even if it's not present in the memory of it. Maybe it is sometimes when you think about the Mandela effect, where people say, one thing happened, they're sure it happened, and and it didn't happen as things are right now. If I'm using the right word there, that is fascinating. You've just got me there on that. And if it isn't that healing modality, that was a healing modality for yourself, but for those who are going through the crunch of being in a cell and having to live with what they've done, what is Joseph can come through here right now. I know he's there with you all the time. She's with you all the time. He's with you all the time. They're with you all the time. What is that process that some people go through that shifts them? Is it just like, I love myself? I can actually say that now. I love myself, and that's part of the process that they go through, maybe.
Well, we always say, the answer is always the most simplistic perspective, and it is about shifting the perspective. And they say that understanding breeds expansion. So when you can understand something from a different perspective, you feel relief, and when you feel relief, you are more in the vicinity of being in alignment. And when you choose and create from the space of alignment, there is nothing that's out of alignment. So it doesn't really matter where you are. I mean, it's easy for me to sit here and say that. I get that. But this is a vibrational shift. It's a vibrational shift, because remember, everything is created non-physically first before we experience it in our physical reality.
And that's on that pathway there to living with less fear, even if that's finding it through a religious teaching, maybe, or whichever way it is, right? Someone's being loving towards you, and you're feeling that vibration for the first time in a long time, or maybe you're just doing it to yourself, right? Whichever way it's out. So thank you for that, and we'll move on from there. But it's just a fascinating subject, the whole thing is, and it's in our reality.
It's fascinating. But I'll tell you on this last note of it, and we can move on from it. But the ending that we created for that situation shifted my aspect from an out of alignment position during the experience to an in alignment position. And the shifting came by way of understanding the situation, understanding where he was coming from, what he had been through. I saw him in a different light, in other words. So it shifted my perspective, shifted his perspective. And I was told at that time, not only did this experience expand your aspect, it also expanded his on his own eternal journey. So it cleared both of us.
And not that consciously, maybe at the time that was happening, he would have been aware of that, right? But over time, maybe parts of himself have grown, that he, as he goes on his journey, or. Yeah, and isn't this the same for so many relationships where they can be quite difficult sometimes? And no, other place are you going to get such growth then from that situation, I guess, right? And
Right.
it's the same sort of analogy as the two little souls in the agreements.
Exactly.
But it's, you tried anything, and not anything, but you wanted to heal, and it was better off than holding on to all the pain that was causing you at the time, maybe, because we can carry it with us, can't we?
Yeah. Because we do vibrationally.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
It's part of our physical makeup,
Yes.
our physical vibration,
I was told a story where there was this guy, and this is a bit unrelated, but kind of related. I'll be very quick with it. There was this guy that had a constant issue with his right leg, and he was limping all the time. He just couldn't, always being injured in this particular part of his leg. And the injury in the end was sourced when he was put under regression to a lifetime that this was coming from. And when that was healed, the ongoing issues with his leg were healed, and it's just incredible. It's just
exactly. And you can see from that story that it doesn't matter what we do to our physical bodies until we heal or expand that vibration. That's the root. Joseph says, you can shake the leaves off the tree all you want, but if the roots are rotten, it's going to continue to manifest rotten leaves. Same thing with us.
Yeah, I still carry a lot of problems from my past relationship. A lot of forgiving stuff. A lot of forgiving stuff that I'm still carrying on with, and I've got to let it go at some point and move on. I need and heal it, and I think every day is closer to that. I hope, unless I'm the one that's holding on to it for whatever crazy reason. But I do, and I think even admitting that is part of that process. But I'm saying it because I know there's others that are going through the same thing as well. You're not on your own, and
Joseph refers to us, the human aspects of us that are here right now in this vibrational timeline, as the captains of our human aspect teams. We are the captains because in this lifetime, this is the first lifetime, physical lifetime, that we have had the opportunity to consciously step over that line into the fifth dimension. We're not going to do it in this body. We're not going to do it on this current earth, but we do have the ability now to experience it vibrationally and to build our way toward that. We are creating, we are creating the new human aspect of us who will live there, by shifting our perspective to that vibration.
Well, I think this shift is already going on. Look how many souls have already left this planet this past few years. And I get the feeling that there are no mistakes. I mean, I know a lot of deaths from the pandemic and other things, but I think I just feel that, there are no. The soul chooses when it wants to leave. I get that feeling.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, because the purpose is not a physical purpose. It doesn't have to do with the physical body. I mean, our purpose here is to expand. And we're always expanding. We don't go backwards. We can't unvibrate.
We may feel we do, but actually we haven't.
Right. That's right.
Yeah.
We may feel we do, but we don't.
Yes.
We don't.
Sometimes we've got to have the 2x4 whacked over our head a few times just to know we either got the message in the first place, or whatever it is, you are on. This is the right path. So please, please move along. So yes, unworthy. We've talked about a lot about. Well, let's get into alignment then. I was going to say unworthiness and manifestation, and everything we're talking about is about what your work is in a sense, which I think it's about manifesting the best version of yourself. I should really ask you that. What is the most important aspect of your work, would you say?
That's a big subject. I think it is the perspective. It's shifting the perspective. When they started, in book one, they put it out there, the soul's perspective of the ego. The ego is a huge out of alignment teaching, frankly. But all the teachings we've had up to this point, generally speaking, have been conjured in and taught from the third dimension. So a lot of them are out of alignment. That doesn't mean they're wrong. They are in vibrational agreement.
Can I just say it was the best that we could do at the time?
Absolutely. It was, and it's always based on our awareness. Everything is based on our awareness. Look at the teaching that has expanded. Look at, every great teachers for eons of time.
When did we move past them?
But as we evolve, new teachers are made available. We're never left, alone ever. There are always teachers stepping forward with the next step to show us the next step, because as we evolve, our soul evolves. So this particular step is a shift in perspective. Joseph came right out and said, these are my words, not theirs. Of course, they would never say this, that you guys have really screwed up the teaching of this ego. Now the teaching of the current teaching of the ego is blame the ego for the ego made me do it. Oh, that guy's got a huge ego. Look at him. He's arrogant. He's all, and have attached all of these out of alignment. And of course they're out of alignment because the teaching's out of alignment. Everything that is taught from out of alignment, everything all the tributaries that come from every out of alignment teaching are out of alignment too. So of course we liken the ego to something that's evil. We liken the ego to something that is something to blame, right? There's no blaming in alignment. So it's out of alignment. So Joseph Kunin says, no. The ego is an aspect of us. The ego is an aspect of love. And this is your helper in the third dimension. The ego knows the terrain of the third dimension. So the soul comes in, doesn't get involved in all the pain stuff. The soul offers us and gives us our in alignment emotional responses, the love, the peace, the joy, the excitement, the inspiration. That's all, indication that we're in alignment. When we're out of alignment and we're in despair or loneliness or anger or anything that's not love, that's the ego's offering to us an indication that we are choosing out of alignment thoughts that will lead to out of alignment manifestations that we're not going to like. It never has anything to do with the situation. It's only about the in or out of alignment choosing. The ego doesn't choose it for us. We, the human aspect, are making those choices. The ego is telling us through negative emotion, don't do that. Turn around, warning signs, warning, turn around, get back in alignment, or you're not going to like where you're going.
I always think of the ego as the forget-me-not part of who I truly am. It's just the minus of that will always have been and forever will be. And it's just the results of forgetting and have forgot, where I've come from, where I've been, all the lives that I've lived. Do you know what I mean? So having no memory, my memory is from day one, and that's the ego that's built up from that point. But I'm not against my ego, Kevin Moore. I know it needs a lot of improvement, but or it could do with being the human aspect being more loving to the ego, maybe, right?
Yes.
But to say that, it's just a natural byproduct of the ego. I feel of just being here. How could it not be? What other reference have we got if we don't have an ego of what we are? The everything of what we've gone through in this life path is that build-up of our ego up to now. And I guess okay, so if someone's ego is rather rude and full of themselves and I'm the best kind of thing, well, I guess maybe that's why have they gone to that space of not being very nice to people as well. I guess that's their journey that they've got to figure that out at some point, because it's not going to serve them for the rest of their life. It will bite them in the arse being that way.
Yeah. Well, we would say it's never the ego that is saying those things. We say it's the human aspect that's making those choices. It's the human aspect that thinks he's better than everybody else. It's as a result of out of alignment choosing. For whatever reason, it doesn't matter. But the negative emotion is supplied by the ego, and only to tell us, the human aspect, get your ass back in alignment. You're not going to like where you're taking this, because people that feel that way, they feel that way, but they're manifesting a lot of things that are not comfortable. You can tell by you can look at anybody, pretty much that, and figure out what their choosing perspective is. You can do it in your own life. This perspective is all about the universal truths. We call them the truths, the laws, the universal laws. This is all about, and all the universal laws are vibrational. That's why there's no wrong. There's no judgment, because it's all about choosing alignment with something, and everything manifests from itself.
Yes, because thank you. You mentioned that in one of your more recent podcasts, and we'll link it below as well. You're the chooser of your own thoughts, Down the River podcast. Yes.
Oh yeah. Down the River. That's a lot of people, after we put that out, the red balls and the white balls, and a lot of people said, oh my God, that made so much sense to me. You have to let the ego off the hook, because when you do that, this teaching, this perspective is about self-responsibility, because nobody can choose your vibration for you. And everything stems from our vibration. We're choosing vibrational thoughts. We're creating non-physically from vibration, right? We're creating momentum that's vibrational. We're calling to us from the law of attraction, vibrational. Everything is vibrational. So then we experience it in its physical vibrational form. And then we say, I didn't do that. Well, yeah, you did. It's taking control of our choosing.
I don't know what it is since January, and I've been in a pretty dark place the last year, I won't lie. But since January, since the first day of January, oh my God, it's just been so full on. It's just been crazy manifestations, and it may seem only like little things to other people, but to me it's just so much. And I'm like, what the hell shifted? Am I even in the same reality? Do I even want to think like that? What have I walked through some parallel universe door, and this is just a bit more easier in this? Do you know what I mean? And I'm thinking to myself, well, I guess your choosing's changed. Do you know what I mean? Maybe you just a bit more loving in your thoughts to yourself, and maybe this is your time as well. Because do you think there's timing involved here? Because I've got to mention this as well. We all want, don't we, to be that young person, or maybe I did, that young person that got it all in their, manifested everything they wanted in their early 20s, 30s, and lived the fruits of it. When they're a bit older and everything else. We kind of pressured that way from the mainstream. And for some of us, and this goes for so many different types of variations on what I'm talking about, it happens. We would think, why is it happening when I'm in my mid 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, right, or 80s, right? But from a soul perspective, there is no time, and that's just when it's supposed to happen. And we're so friggin' impatient, aren't we?
Yeah, they said to me just yesterday, you don't start pushing at 3 months. I tend to be very impatient. They've calmed me down a lot over the years, but they gave me this visual one time about this subject, and it was in a meditation. And they said, we want you to visualize a room, and the room was all white tile, 4 walls. I was an observer and looking down on the room, and the floor of the room was like this black tile. It was all black. And then all of a sudden it appeared dominoes, and the dominoes were standing up, and they were white dominoes. And there was a beautiful, very intricate pattern all over the entire floor. And I said, okay, that's really nice. What are you showing me? And they said, we want you to look at number 734 or something like this. I'll make up the numbers. And I said, what? And as I looked over this pattern, this one domino in the back kind of stood up like this, and it had a big 734 on it. And I went, wow, okay, I see it. They showed it to me. It came out like this. And I said, okay. And they said, now look down at number 2. And 2 went like this. And there's like all these things, all this pattern. And I said, okay, what are you showing me? And they said, all of those dominoes represent events on your for your expansion. And you can't get to 734 until every single event happens in between 2 and 734, and they're all going to fall. And as one event happens, it causes the next and the next and the next. Event driven.
This is my point. Thank you for so much for sharing that, because I was kind of hesitating there when I was trying to answer my own question to you. Why now? Yeah. But I actually have to remind myself, no. There is a timing for everything, and you can't rush some things. There are certain things we have to go through. That's my point. And sometimes it's not always very clear. Yes, experiences, and some of those experiences can be very loving, and some of them can seem to be very difficult. But they're all part of the process. And I'm sure when we go back to full remembrance, right? It will seem so different of what was so painful, and it is worth healing those problems that we have here rather than taking them with us to the next back home, I call it.
You don't take them with you, but they'll stay here. You still have to, we don't use the term go through. Everybody does. We don't use a lot of terms, a lot of people do. But we say experience, because the perspective is, as soon as you say, oh, I have to go through that, all of a sudden you're wearing the weight of the world on your shoulders. I have to go through that. I'm going to experience. I had an experience. Why did I have that experience? It was based on what I was choosing. This is all about relief. And
look, how many people, how many people, just want to, when they come to see someone that they want some healing from, how many people just want to, talk about the relationship side, because that's the only thing they really want to focus on, right? Yeah. Forget all the other parts that are causing them to get into those relationships, which is them. Do you know what I mean?
Of course, that's the thing.
Yeah, but relationship is the biggest thing for a lot of people on the surface level, and all those relationships have come because of, obviously, it's building you in different ways that I so needed. I mean, there was something else I was going to say.
Go ahead. It comes through vibrational agreement. I look back now, every relationship I ever had, some good relationships, but they never really lasted long. I was married 3 times, I look back now and I say, of course I was with that guy. Of course I was with that guy. I was a perfect vibrational match. And that's how that's how we create our reality, all through vibrational agreement. Your job, the means you support yourself with, where you live. I'm going to throw this in here because this was pretty profound too. It was years ago. I was watching some soul show that Oprah had on. This is years ago. And she had on 3 up and coming new spiritual people. And the guy there, young guy, he was telling his story like we all do, right? And he said that he had ventured out and he was going to go teach, and he was so excited about doing all this stuff. But he wasn't ready yet, but we think we are because we are impatient. We see 734 and we want to jump over the rest of them, right? And he was telling his story to Oprah, and he said, I found myself, he said, it didn't go as I had anticipated. And I found myself sitting in a basement, 1 room with 1 light and 1 little bed and nothing. And I was so depressed and I was in such despair. And I looked up at God and I said, is it mad? Like I was. And he said to God, is this what you think of me? And God said, no, that's what you think of you. That shifted me, and it shifted him. I'm sure it shifted millions of people who saw it, because they're saying you are choosing this, you're choosing it. And well, I was going to say, if something is on your eternal path, like my purpose, your purpose, everybody has a purpose and it's on their eternal path, there is no effort. If you are in effort, or if you have to, I'm trying to, there's no trying there. There's only events. There's only vibrational agreement. And on our spiritual path, the vibrational agreements that move us forward are when we are ready, when our awareness is there. My awareness at domino number 2 is nowhere near ready for domino number 734.
Right. But that's not
right?
absolutely, but that's not to say that we don't have to put some effort into it. You hear of, these people that were so driven in setting up their, whatever it is, business, and or whatever it may be. Yeah. But let's just stick with business. They're so driven that they gave up. They had, they were working ungodly hours. Do you know what I mean? But to them, it was, they were so much in alignment with what they're supposed to be doing that I guess they never felt that way. Yeah, right.
That's the difference.
Yeah,
because I was going to say it's not work. I sit up hours. I'm up at 2 and 3 o'clock every morning. Right? Yeah, I'm up but it's not work to me. And there's nothing. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing like getting that impulse, and I don't consider that effort. Effort is when I'm frustrated and I'm trying to force something that's not working, or it's not time for that yet. And I'm trying to force it to happen. I got to make it happen. I don't do that anymore, and as soon as you back off, it will continue to unfold. But as we are trying and forcing and doing all of those words, by the way, and all of those actions, and that behavior is out of alignment. So even if you get there, and eventually you will, it won't be in alignment. And it will be a continuous struggle, because everything created from the space of out of alignment is the manifestations are out of alignment.
So deliberate manifesting, because obviously in book 3, you talk about, the level of the soul, obviously, and you talk about the process of deliberate alignment. So this to know that you're in a deliberate alignment, to know that you're in purpose, there's obviously, what is the main feeling of it? I guess I've already answered it myself. When I guess it's just enjoying what you're doing. You would do it anyway, even if you weren't getting all the money for it. I guess.
Well, the money, what a lot of people, and I try to pound this in my sister's head. God, I love her. The money from the spiritual perspective, when you're in alignment, there's total abundance of everything: joy, peace, inspiration, excitement. And the money is just part of that. So you can't, what they said to me one time, they said, Cindy, you can't live a life of poverty and claim to be in alignment, because there's no vibrational agreement there. It's like buying diet pills from a fat guy, and they said, there's no vibrational agreement. So you can't example alignment from the basement that the guy's sitting in, because there's something wrong. There's just something wrong. Of course, there's something wrong, because it's out of alignment. There's nothing wrong in alignment, And that's not to say that, I'm going to open my door and there's going to be $5 million sitting out there. I wish there was.
Right.
But I'm always going to have what I need.
But even if you're in alignment, right, and you may be living in a basement just for a little for a while, because you've got you are happy in the basement, right? But financially, that's where you need to be right now, in the basement, because you've got to see the process through. But you're still in alignment, and nothing's going to manifest. You've got to give up some things, haven't you, sometimes, to get to where you want. Well, I say give up. Maybe I don't know about give up. Maybe maybe then it's not important to you anymore.
You choose something. Yeah, it's not important anymore.
Yeah,
it's a choosing. Yeah, see, we don't believe you have to ever give up anything, because when you are on your eternal path, the path of your alignment, and it's all unique for all of us. When you are on your eternal path, everything you need to accomplish, to accomplish where you're going, is on that pathway. I picture it like this beautiful, I have a lot of pathways to the new earth in my visual, but when you're there, it's like, as you're approaching a new step, a doorway opens, and your next, and whatever it is, a person, a phone call, money, whatever it is that you need to accomplish your next step, wherever you are on your eternal pathway, it's there. Just there. It's part of the unfolding. They don't send us here to do something and then not give us the means to do it. or not put us in the position. Right.
Absolutely. And I would love to have future conversations with you in
Yeah.
regards to deliberate creation, because I know, look, you've got 4 books with so much information in there. And obviously, I would suggest people, if they feel in alignment with your work, which I just completely do, and I know many, many others will by watching this, that there's a lot of great information in those books as well. And there's so much we could just talk on just one subject. We're just going to move very quickly to the New Earth as well. And I appreciate you going overtime with us right now just to do this, because it's important.
Sit here for 3 days if you want.
Yes. I just have to
I love it.
clear my calendar a bit. So again, I should have asked you this at the very beginning. Let's just cover this subject as well. Channeling. What is channeling to you?
That's an interesting question, because I struggled with it in the beginning a lot, because I had been to several channelers in my previous life. In my younger years, I was always drawn to them, never really knew why. I was just always fascinated by it. And everyone channeled differently. Some went into trances, some, whatever, everybody channels differently. And so when I started hearing them, it was not like that. And so I tried to make it like that. And they would wait for me. They would say, okay, go do that. And then we'll wait for you when we get back, And I did that for a lot of time, I did that a lot. Well, how come I don't look like that? Well, because you're not them. You're not them. They showed me the uniqueness of it. For me, it's all vibrational, unless I'm writing, like when I was writing the books, it was just coming through. And then I would get stuck because it's the translation of the vibration into words. And when we're translating this journey to the new earth, the words aren't there yet. So I have to pick words. So sometimes I get stuck and I'll say, I need a word. And then they will give me the word and I just keep going. But mostly it is, the only way I can describe it for me is a feeling that translates into a word or a pattern. Esther describes it really good for me too, blocks of thought. It's just blocks of thought that come through.
Well, I've seen you in this conversation where I know that, you can tell that there's something else as as you're talking, connects with you, then it's kind of you coming through more than this sort of this collaboration. So, and this is how you would work within a reading sometimes. But, I know that people have asked you before, okay, let's just let's just bring that group through right now, but that's not really what they're always there. I mean, I could say, okay, let's bring them through right now, and I have with other people because that's the way that they work, right? But I feel that they're there for questions, and the alignments there has always been there since we started to talk. So and they're not keeping you up all night. You've never had that problem where they're just always no, this has been in alignment on every level.
When I'm focused, like I got focused on them when I first sat down here, and I kind of hold them right here, in my focus. So I can feel them with me all the time. Sometimes they come through pretty powerfully, and I kind of step back and let that. They used to more than they do now, and they tell me that is because as I continue to expand my own vibration, early on, they said to me, Cindy, you need to expand your vibration to include us in your awareness. We're not coming down to you, you're coming up to us. And as I have made strides, expanded my vibration, the more blended we become. And if you read in the first book, I don't know if you did, and I don't remember if it's in the preface of the welcome letter, they said, we are demonstrating the new human to you. And they're trying to demonstrate that through me. So we all are channelers. We are all channelers to a degree. Most of us are not conscious of it. But when we live on the new earth in our new physical being, we will all live as blended beings, as fully blended with our soul aspect.
Yes, and we're just going to get to the new earth. Thank you for that. But when you bring when you're more allowing not allowing, I guess when they're aligned with you more fully, the group, be it in whatever scenario, for a client or whatever lecture, your higher self is part of that group in a sense. So are you actually bringing through an aspect of your higher self?
Yes. Soul is part of the collective group. And I've done this many, many lifetimes in whole different formats. But they also told me too, when we were talking about this a while ago, they said everybody who channels is channeling by way of an aspect of themselves. The higher self is an aspect of you. And they're bringing through an aspect of themselves always, whether it's individual or a group.
I mean, even people that channel the higher self, I mean, that is some powerful stuff. I mean, people may say, oh, it's just your higher self talking, but it's loving, it's caring, it's wise, it's yeah.
It's the expanded us.
Yeah. I've always felt like channeling is like allowing that greater part of yourself, your soul, to come, the true self, to come through. And yes, okay, if you want to call it Bashar or Joseph or Abraham or whatever, Seth, yes, I'm sure there is aspects of others or other energy that's coming through that, absolutely. But imagine how the world would change if more of us just allow the higher self to come through, right? God.
Well, welcome to the new earth. Welcome to the new earth. And channeling other consciousness, I'm kind of, attached to them, but that doesn't mean, I've done some mediumship work back in the beginning, very easy to connect with other vibrations. When you know what this feels like, you can connect with other, and I've done some healing. I believe that mediumship work is very healing, very healing. I've seen the shifts in people that I've helped.
Look at the shift with mediumship work where a lot of people are now saying, actually, yes, I'm doing the mediumship or psychic side, but I'm also channeling as well. I hear that more and more.
Well, it depends on how you define channeling. That's why I said in the beginning, I don't consider it channeling. It's receiving. It's receiving a vibration. It's vibrate. Vibrational language is our natural language.
Yeah, we've forgotten.
There's nothing more natural than that. That's how we're all connected.
So just moving on to the new earth then. So how would you describe the new earth when basically right now, we're on the precipice of war between, Russia and the Ukraine, maybe. Who knows what's going to happen there. There will be other scenarios like that. There's great changes coming on into this world, I do believe. Where is the new earth?
The new earth is non-physical right now. We are creating it by way of consciousness. It's a consciousness, and they need us. It's a co-collaboration. It's a collaboration between the physical and non-physical, and it doesn't only involve the human collective. It involves the entire physical earth, the animals, the trees, everything that is part of the third dimension. A lot of people say the earth has already evolved, that has already ascended into the new earth. Well, non-physically, yes. It is in its non-physical form. In order for us to experience it, the human collective to experience it, we need to get to that timeline where it is. So in order to do that, and we don't go in these bodies are a physical manifestation of this vibrational timeline, this denseness, this vibration. We can't walk onto the new earth with these. I kind of picture the new human aspect as kind of translucent almost, because there's no denseness. It's not necessary there. So the new body, the new human, in its physical form, it'll still be physical, but it will be a perfect manifestation of that consciousness, of that non-physical vibration. So we are creating it. So Joseph has said that, because a lot of people say, what does it look like? What does it look like? And they have said, it looks exactly how you picture it. You're creating your version of it now. And if you are creating it from the space of alignment, you will experience it that way in its physical form. Okay. We're moving into this perspective that is unlimited. Remember, there are no limits in this perspective either. In book 1, you read the soul's perspective. This is the perspective we are now choosing from. The new human is also created in its non-physical form. That's why this collaboration between our physicalness and our non-physical soul, when we come together without fear, we will experience that one. Now, Joseph said, and I'll shut up. Joseph said, if every single human on the earth at this time would focus on alignment for 60 seconds, they would experience the new earth for 59 of them. It would be a human collective creation of the new earth, and we would all experience it uniquely. That'll blow your mind, right?
It does. Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's huge.
The way I envisage New Earth then is it's almost like, it's the soul that's jumping to a different version of a timeline almost, but we won't know it's physical like this, but it's different. It's different.
Garden of Eden.
Well,
Garden
yes,
of
it
Eden.
would seem like that in the peacefulness of it, yeah. But we're all in the same shared reality. Well, we seem to be, a lot of us right now, of what's going on right now. So we're obviously, and I think what you're saying, and tell me if I'm wrong by saying this, but this shift to the new earth that we've all been talking about, this may be in what we perceive as multiple lifetimes beyond this understanding, right? Which to the consciousness is a blink in the eye, probably. What's 1,000 years? Do you know what I mean? Okay, so to get to the new earth, is it may be 1,000 years, right? In human years.
In human years, who knows? Now, we are not, now there's been a lot of, I know a lot of different perspectives of this too, who goes and who doesn't. And some are just going to go to a different planet. We don't teach that. We say that you can't kill off vibration, first of all. So vibrational timelines are always constant because it's part of the universe and part of universal law. So the people that remain, this is the first lifetime that we're experiencing now where we have the opportunity to advance, for lack of a better word, to this new vibration. So some of us, when we come back again, we will be on the new earth, depending on what progress we make in our own individual expansion. There are a lot of people who will not. They will continue to experience the third dimension until they walk out of it. Until they choose their way out. And there are always teachers showing the way. We are showing the way. Joseph is one of probably not as many as there could be. They're always perfect. There was perfect amount, I guess, but everybody's teaching expansion in their own way. And we just happen to be building this bridge to get us there, and that's by a shift in perspective.
But there's a lot of souls that would be choosing, as I did and you did, to come here, to have this experience on this reality. And there's so many more waiting to get their turn on it. So, we consciously know what we're getting involved in. It's not like, if you go down that slide, I'm not too sure where you might turn up, but have fun. You know where you're going. Do you know what I mean? You're choosing it.
We're choosing it.
At the aware level.
We're choosing it from the space of alignment. So we're not up there saying, well, we're going to go in, we're going to get in all this chaos. We don't see it that way. We say we're going in to expand. And we're going in to assist humanity in their own expansion. We don't say we're going in to experience pain. We're past that.
No. I mean, the human beings, the souls that are at me, for example, right? That's out there now. I wanted to come here, right? But
yes,
I knew I knew at a level that I didn't have to. That I
well, it's your purpose.
Yes,
that's a human statement. Yeah, that's a human statement. I don't have to. But your purposed aspect soul, the collective you, wouldn't even think twice because it's all based in love. And your purpose is to assist in the expansion, is to bring a platform and your own experience to assist others to expand. Really important, really important.
And those that are not, those that are on the are unconscious in a sense, right? Any of this conversation was just say it's just woo woo. But for those
Yeah.
that have come down with the canvas tightly on, right? They still chose to come here. They still, they
Yes.
must have been aware of what they were getting involved in. But it was such an experience to have and to take with them. I guess there was no saying no to it. But could they have said yes to the new Earth rather than going through this? I guess you've already answered this, because you've got to go through A, B, C, D, E. You can't just go to D and not have done A. Do you know what I mean?
Well, it's all about expansion. That's why when people say, oh, that guy, died when he was 21, or the baby died when he was 4. Oh, the life was cut short. That never happens, because it's only about experience. We don't know what the experience does to our human aspect when we're in the womb. That's an experience of physical life too. We are not aware of that, but something expands us. So yes, the expansion process, the people that came here now are expanding their human aspect by way of their soul's choosing, So, yeah.
But for those as well, thank you so much for that. I know we've got limited time here. For those as well who would say, oh, you know what, I'm spiritual and I'm awakened and I'm just going to ignore everything that's going on. Forget about Russia, forget about, China, forget about all the issues that are out there. If I ignore it, then I'm not giving it my attention.
Yeah. Yep. I watch it from afar. I watch everything. I've been watching more closely in the past probably 4 years than I have ever paid attention to politics or world goings on or whatever. And I watch it as an observer, and I focus on my own alignment. Joseph told me 2 years ago, that's January, 2 years ago now, when we first started January of 2020, they said, moving forward, we want you to focus only on your own alignment. And they were stressing it big, had no idea why. And then March came and everything changed, and we were all thrown into this tornado, and that's why they were telling me, focus on your own alignment, because regardless of what's going on out there, and I'm not saying don't pay attention to it, put in your vibration what you want to experience. That's all I'm going to say. But as an observer and focus on your own alignment, you are better off making choices from the space of alignment, being an observer, than being a participator in an out of alignment manifestation. You can participate from an in alignment position, from love. There are millions who are doing that. Yeah.
Well, yeah. What about those who set up a cause?
Yeah.
Is that not participation, but being involved in it, but participation from the right perspective alignment for doing it?
Yes. The purpose, that's their purpose. That's their purpose. There are so many who are standing up, and look what they're fighting for. Now this is, of course, the third dimensional words and stuff, but they're fighting for freedom, unity, oneness. They're fighting for the experience of alignment. If you look at it from that perspective, they're fighting for freedom. That's alignment. So yes, that's their purpose. So everybody has a purpose that's here now. That's always here.
Well,
It's
I know
always
that
purpose.
you and Joseph are aware that I've talked to you about the International Spiritual News Network, and this is like not to avoid the news. This is to report the news as is, but then to look at it from that deeper karmic reason about karmically, spiritually, why is this going on? And we never get that perspective, do we? What is the bigger teaching behind this? Yeah.
Love it. I love it. I love it. I love what you were doing. And I want to be involved if I can help.
I would love to have you on. I mean,
it.
this is not yet. This is not. I've still got to get my process done to get there yet, right? But I feel it called me many years ago, but it didn't. I wanted to walk away from it when it came through me after a regression. To be quite honest with you, and I did. I actually did. But you know what? The weirdest thing, it's been coming to me, and I can't stop it. And I'm like, what is this? Oh my gosh, but I know what it is, but I'm surprised. I'm still a bit surprised. Do you know what I mean?
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Doesn't leave you alone.
No, it
Yeah.
won't. It won't. It won't. It won't. Even in my immigration application, I talk about it there, and I'm like, "What am I talking about to the immigration officer about what I want to do over here?" Do you know what I mean? It's like what's he gonna think, or is she gonna? But I did, and I'm like, "There's a reason for all this. You're committing yourself to doing this, Kev. Did you understand why?" You've got no way out. But yeah,
tiptoeing. It's awesome.
I feel that's
Really.
mine, and I think I'm not saying everyone's got a calling like that. I'm not saying it's a big calling. I'm not comparing it to no one else. I'm just saying we all have. It may just be in a mum and dad. Do you know what I mean? It's really important bringing up kids the right way. But we've all got our things to do, and I think. It all goes back to what we were saying earlier on about, it's sometimes it's not about doing it when you think you should be doing it. It happens when it's meant to be, right? I have to remind myself that, right? But yeah, that I think if we're in alignment, you're right that it's not about adding to the chaos. It's about doing something that could be helping it, but being in alignment with what you're doing. Yeah, I get it. It's so important.
Assisting the moving forward, It's all about moving forward. It's not about running from the fear. It's about walking toward the love, and there's a big difference in that perspective.
What can people do when around them, the world is shifting so much sometimes that, there is a lot of fear out there, even from the spiritual community, in a sense, right?
Yeah.
What, and again, you would say probably, well, Joseph, that's with you now, would say as well, it's about just going more into alignment. Because you have said previously, maybe not on this show, but you have said that even if one person reaches their alignment, that's worth it more than if even a million did, right?
That's an Abraham quote.
That's an Abraham quote. Sorry. Yes. Yes.
She says 1 in a million is more powerful than one in alignment is more powerful than a million who are not. And we're seeing, we're witnessing that now. Look at all the chaos. The chaos is crazy. Joseph refers to it as the carnival, and the gates are closing. It's a world of illusion. It's not who we really are, but it's manifesting like crazy. It's being exposed all over the place.
Thank you. Thank you for just saying that. Absolutely. So what is part of Joseph's? What would Joseph say right now in respect to that? Do you think with the carnival out there? How do we not get attached to it? But how do we sort of like calm it down within our own world as well?
Well, the first thing is shifting your perspective about it. If you shift the perspective from the third dimensional perspective to the fifth dimensional perspective, you see it from the soul's perspective. And you see it as a shift in consciousness that we know has been in the works forever. And now we're just getting what, Joseph, a lot of people, we're at the precipice now, where we can consciously choose to experience it. We're going through it, and we have an opportunity to consciously choose we want to experience it. So we can choose to get in the middle of the chaos and expand the chaos by focusing on it. Or we can say, I'm going to ride this wave of consciousness, and I'm going to watch what's happening, and I'm going to pick a side. Joseph said the other day, there are 2 bandwagons, jump on one, and whichever one you jump on, you are going to experience. You can jump on the bandwagon of alignment, which is focusing as much as you possibly can, focusing on your own alignment. Remember, the one in alignment, right? You affect everybody in a positive way when you walk around in alignment, because the world needs love all the time. So if you are walking in love, you are also attracting that and emitting that, So if you're walking around pissed off all the time and, shooting people and that's what you're going to experience. So it's really a basis for choosing. It's choosing how you want to experience this shift, because it's here.
Oh, you can't escape it. Yeah.
Can't escape it.
And this is what I was saying earlier on about, those who choose not to acknowledge anything. I think you've made a choice then by even not acknowledging it.
Yeah, of course. Because you're always going to experience the vibration that you choose.
And maybe the no choice is a choice of going with the collective in the first place, which is what the one thing you were trying to avoid.
Well, that's right. We did a post not that long ago that said, complacency is still a choice. And when you are in a complacent, if you put yourself in a complacent vibration, meaning I'm not going to choose, you are choosing to allow the dominant collective vibration to move you. And if the dominant vibration that you are around is a fearful one, you will experience that collective manifestation. So it's better to choose your own because you're going to experience something anyway.
Right. And yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to sort of round up this interview a little bit here right now as well. We spoke at the very beginning about the lying on the floor and the pain that I mean, I'm not laughing at the situation. I'm just how far you've come to this point here. Do you know what I mean? It's just incredible.
Huge.
But you may have lost people on the way, and other people may have as they go through their own transition of shifting themselves, they may lose friends or what they thought was serving them. But there's always a tribe out there for you, isn't there? That probably is what you found as well. Your tribe is out there.
Yeah. A lot of my clients and Joseph always told me our message will be taught to the teachers because it's on a level that the teachers can understand before. It's got to do with the awareness, and because it's a different perspective, it's a teaching tool, really. But so I want to say every single client that I've had says the same thing. I don't have any friends anymore. I'm so lonely. And me too. I mean, I get that. And that's because we are shifting we're not in vibrational agreement with the people we used to be in vibrational agreement with. They still are, but we're not there anymore. We've moved on. We've expanded our own vibration and we're attracting that vibration. If you are spending most of your time, now, of course, we can't spend all of our time in alignment or else we wouldn't be here. We're in the third dimension, but the more time we spend focus on our own alignment, the more people who are also in alignment we are attracting. You're not going to you can't attract a vibration that you're not in agreement with, let's say.
I get that now with you. You are for the teachers right now. That's so true. That so makes sense what you just said there. I was like, that was a bit of the missing jigsaw I was looking for as well. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Joseph threw that in there.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how to leave this because I know I want you back on, right?
Oh,
but
I'm so thrilled, Kevin.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
but there's so much to your work. I mean,
so big.
Yeah. So I think we will get you back on for sure. What would be, and I appreciate Joseph being with us all throughout this as well. And but what would be if Joseph and yourself wanted to leave us with an important message right now? What do you think that would be?
You are all loved beyond measure. And it is in the knowing of this that you will rise. And they say, figure it out. It's all about love. It's all about love. Every bit of it. God bless John Lennon. You see him right behind me. I'm a big fan of John Lennon. He started it. He started it in my generation anyway. It's what it all comes down to is that. And if you are making choices and choosing things that are not in alignment with love, you are choosing chaos, especially now when it's just, it's right in our face all the time. It's right in our face all the time. But the love is the way out. Love is the way out.
It was the way in that got us here before we incarnated, and it's the way out before we go back home. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to say to you and Joseph, just thank you both so much and the team for being here today. We really appreciate you giving us your time and energy. I know that you've got a lot going on right now. You always have, but I mean, we just appreciate you coming on and these support as well that you've given us. And if people want to book sessions with yourself, if you want to give a website out just for that, and then we'll link it all below as well.
Yeah, all our information is on the teachingsofjoseph.com, Josef. And everything is on there. The books are available in paperback and Kindle, and they'll link you to Amazon. And the quotes are on there. They leave us these breadcrumbs. I've been posting these for 3 or 4 years on Instagram. And they're tidbits of the perspective. It's a slow shift. But Joseph does want to say to you personally, Kevin, that we thank you for all the effort. Smart asses. The effort that you have put into your purpose. And we want you to know how important doesn't seem to be even fitting for the impact that you are making on the human collective with your work and what is to come. And we would say to you to relax and give up the resistance, because you will be shocked at how this is going to unfold for you and the joy that it's going to bring you and so many millions of people. And we want to thank you for your dedication to this work. And it will expand to places you are unaware of at this time.
Maybe not ready for. Absolutely. Yeah. I
The
hear
human collective, you are, and Cindy is waiting is her word, not ours.
Right.
Waiting for the human collective readiness in order to hear these messages.
Thank you. And
Yes.
I just want to say to everyone just that's still with us right now, please do support Cindy and her work because it really helps her to continue what she's doing. And I know you guys will, and we'll be putting links to support her below as well. So thank you guys, and until next time, which will be in the blink of an eye, I can't wait to have you back on again. Thank you.
Me too. Thank you, Kevin, so much for everything. It was such a delight. You're so delightful. It was really fun. Thank you. It was great.